For those of you who have done a 5-day challenge before, you'll be familiar. We keep these short and sweet. These are our 5-minute live calls for the 5-day challenge. So for those of you who I don't know, my name is Maggie Palmer, and I'm the founder of a company called Pep Talker. And our mission is to help you get paid more and promoted faster, because when women lead the world and have more money, awesome things happen, in my humble opinion. Let me know in the chat where you are joining us from today and one thing that you are hoping to get from this challenge this week. I am joining us from New York City, from the land of the Lenape people. So hello to anyone else in North America. And a big hello to those of you joining us early in the morning in Asia and late in the evening in Europe. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the chat where you're joining me from and one thing that you're looking for support with this week as part of the 5-day challenge. I like to keep things snappy, and I'm going to try and keep to time today because I appreciate that your time is valuable and precious. But basically, for day 1 of the challenge, and hi to Megan, who's joining us from the train, 10 points for joining remotely. And there are points for the challenge, by the way, which I'll talk you through in a second. Hi, Sally. It's early where you are. Thank you for being here. And hey, Patty from the Dominican Republic as well. Hello to everyone else who's sending me private messages too. Ruth, I know where you're joining us from. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Anne. So listen, day 1 of the challenge, this challenge is all about just getting you back into a place of power, right? Understanding the value that you have as an individual, firstly, and then secondly, the value that you're bringing to your workplace every single day. Because here's the reality, most of you probably are not working for charities. I know there's some not-for-profit folks in the Pep Talker community, but if you're not working for a charity, and honestly, even if you are working for a charity, if you're no good at your job, they're going to fire you, right? Like that's the reality of the capitalist world that we live in. If you're not good at your job, you're probably going to be let go, right? So I'm going to take a guess that if you have a job right now, you're probably pretty good at your job. And the fact that you're committed to understanding more about yourself, your career, and you're wanting to get promoted tells me you're probably pretty amazing, actually. In my experience, that's the case for most of the Pep Talker community. There are 60,000 of you all around the world, predominantly in North America, Europe, and Asia, and mainly professional women, right, who are aspirational, who are going places in their career, and who are looking for a community to go with them, right? So if you are good at your job, if you still have a job, you're probably doing extraordinarily well. And if you're looking for a job, this challenge is going to help you as well. So day 1 for the challenge, the one thing that I want you to focus on today is get your Nancy Drew on, basically. So you're going to get out your detective glass, your looking glass, your magnifying glass, and just start to take a really good, hard look at yourself, right? And I want you to really look deep, look really, really tough. And I want you to think about what has been your biggest win for this year. This year today, what is the biggest value add that you've had to your team, your community, your business? How have you added value? How have you moved the needle within your company or your organization, right? And then you've got to write it out in detail. Are there any statistics? Are there any dollars and cents? Are there any year-on-year changes that you can attribute directly to the work that you've done? Right? So I know that some of you work in sales, some of you are in teaching, some of you are in marketing. So all of these professions have different KPIs and different metrics, right? So I want you to unpack what is one huge thing, one impressive thing that you've done this year that is really clearly tied to you, right? And the leadership that you had in your team, the value that you added to your team, maybe to the culture, maybe to the organization that you're working within, right? So let me give you an example. Perhaps you organized an annual conference and maybe there were 10% more attendees than last year, right? Maybe you're working in a global sales role and perhaps you had to make a very hard decision and sack 10 people this year. That can be a KPI too, right? So actually having to reduce headcount and make those hard decisions, have those hard conversations, that can be a really big win as well, right? You'll see in the email that you got today about the challenge, 300 people attended the conference at an average of 8.8 out of 10 in terms of conference attendee happiness. Those are some other metrics that you could attribute to you and the value that you're adding to the company as well. Being really specific. And also think about how have you made your boss's life easier? So the entire purpose of today's exercise of getting out that detective magnifying glass is to think about how can you position yourself to your boss at performance review time to show why you are invaluable, why you are making their life easier, why you are saving them time, why you are making them money, or maybe even while you're contributing to culture, right? And you have a role to play in that, whether you're in an administrative role, whether you're in a junior role, whether you're all the way up at the executive level. Everything that you do in some way contributes to impacting your boss's time, money, and the value that they can attribute to them in the business, right? So think about that and be really like, you know, honest with yourself about, actually, the team did do that, but it was actually my idea. Or yes, 20 of us, you know, contributed to closing that deal, and I was the one who flew to Denver to sign the contract in the end, or I was the one who suggested we do everything by Zoom, and the client loved it, and that's why they keep signing with us every single year, right? So think about the data and those facts, and I want you to write that one thing down with as much detail as you can. If you're ahead of the curve, you can go ahead and pop it into the comments now. If you're in our Facebook group, you can share it in the Facebook group. If you're not on social media, that's fine too. You can just reply to today's email and let us know what that one win is for you today, so that we can firstly hold you to account and make sure that you're running that up the ladder when it comes to performance review time. Secondly, we want to celebrate with you because that's awesome, and we want to just acknowledge that success and that win that you've had. And thirdly, we're going to keep track of that as well as part of the challenge, because there's a point system, right? So we actually keep track of the points that everyone is winning and earning throughout the 5 days of the challenge. And there are some prizes, which we will tell you more about in the emails and in the Facebook group as well. But yeah, let us know, what is that one big win for you? I can see we've got some things coming through in the chat as well. Yes, and someone is joining saying they're trying to understand how they can better deal with bosses that maybe don't have their best interests at heart. Someone else is wanting to understand, when should they speak up and talk about these wins? How do you know when the right time to do that is, right? So having these wins is in a concrete format like this is going to really help you, firstly, because you're going to have the confidence to know what you would say in those conversations. Secondly, most companies have a typical sort of annual review timeframe. So it might be in December every year. It might be in February every year. So if you're new to an organization, I would suggest that you ask someone in the team when that timeframe typically is in the organization. And if you're at a company or a startup where it's a bit like all over the place and there's no structure, create your own structure. You know, one of the things we talk a lot about at Pep Talk Her is, you know, your career is up to you. And you get to steer that in the direction that you want, right? So if there is no structure, create it. Say to your boss, hey, I'm going to put some time in the calendar on the 1st of December so that we can connect about my role, the success I've had this year, and some of the ideas I have going forward. And then you can just set that as a recurring annual or quarterly reminder, right? So that you have those consistent touch points with your boss. Love that Dee's sharing in the chat too, that they're organizing events and training to create memorable experiences, which leads to an increase in staff wanting to come into the office. So that's no joke, right? That's a huge KPI. A lot of leaders want people back in the office. Pep Talk Her, we're all virtual, but everyone's different. So Dee, what I would say to you around that is, can you put metrics around that? Will security give you the data on how many people used to come into the office last year versus how many people are coming in now since you implemented the workshop program, or, you know, whatever the experiences? Can you get really granular and specific around that? Because the more specific, the better. It's really hard to lie or argue with specifics when there's a dollars sign, where there's a numbers, percent change, year on year change, month on month change, all those kinds of things, right? So getting really specific is really, really valuable. So I'm conscious that we're at the 5-minute mark and I want to respect your time. If you've got questions, pop them in the chat. But if nothing else today, be the Nancy Drew of your career and think about the one biggest achievement that you've had this year that you want to recall at performance review time. And then send that to me. I'll put my email in the chat so you can shoot that over to me so that I can congratulate you as well. Share it in the Facebook group. And if any questions come up, please just reply on email and let us know how you go. We can't wait to hear all of your wins. And we're looking forward to connecting at the same time every day this week to support you in the rest of the year. There's only 49 days to go until the new year. So perfect time to be taking stock of the successes that you've had and think about how you can leverage those successes to get a performance review that's favorable to you in terms of salary and in terms of your title opportunities going forward as well. Thanks so much for joining.